You are 23, and today is your first day as an airline pilot. The uniform is new enough to resist your shoulders. Your suitcase still carries its store tag. Outside the terminal windows, rain is moving across the runway in gray curtains, and the regional jet waiting at the gate looks much larger than anything you have ever been trusted to fly. You imagined this walk for years. What you never imagined was how quiet it would feel. Your mother sends a photograph just before boarding. It shows the paper airplane you folded at 9, the one she kept on a shelf while you moved through lessons, exams, ratings, and hour after hour in small aircraft. Under the photograph, she writes, "You finally made it." She is right, but she is also wrong. In this composite modern American career, you arrive with a full airline transport pilot certificate at 23. Other pilots may enter through military experience or approved college programs with restricted privileges from 21. Most new applicants still spend years building the experience required to become competitive for an airline cockpit. The professional pathway varies. The waiting does not. Now the cockpit door closes behind you. The captain sits on the left. You sit on the right. Between you are switches, screens, checklists, weather reports, fuel figures, and the lives of people who will never know your name. The captain points toward a line of storms and asks what you see. You begin explaining wind, visibility, and the route around the weather. Halfway through, you realize this is not a quiz. He is deciding whether you can turn information into judgment. For the first time, an airplane full of passengers will move because you speak, monitor, verify, and act. One day, you may occupy the left seat and carry the final authority. If you remain in this Part 121 career, that authority ends before 65. Almost 42 years lie between this first flight and that last one. You think they will be measured in takeoffs and landings. They will actually be measured in the people who wait for you between them. At 23, you are called a first officer. Passengers may call you the co-pilot. The title sounds secondary, but the professional accountability is not pretend. Before each flight, the crew checks the aircraft, the weather, the itinerary, the fuel, the weight, and the conditions that could turn a normal departure into a bad decision. In flight, you share the duties of operating and monitoring the airplane. The captain has primary responsibility, but safety depends on two qualified pilots refusing to become one silent mind. Your first months are constructed through disciplined repetition, procedural flows, standard callouts, operational briefings, verification checklists, the correct procedural response when a display changes color, the correct words when an approach becomes unstable. In the simulator, instructors create failures faster than your hands can solve them. They are not evaluating whether you can look heroic. They are evaluating whether you can remain useful. At the lowest position of the airline seniority list, your schedule belongs mostly to other people. Senior pilots choose first under the rules of the company and its agreements. You receive what remains: early reporting assignments, late operational finishes, reserve periods, short notice, and nights in cities you never intended to visit. On reserve, you pack before you know whether you are leaving. Your suitcase waits beside the wall. Your partner learns the language of uncertainty. Are you home Friday? I should be. What does should mean? It means the weather may deteriorate. It means an aircraft may require maintenance. It means an assignment may be reconfigured. It means you can be legal to work and still have no control over the shape of the day. Federal rest rules create non-negotiable boundaries. Before many assignments, the airline must provide at least 10 consecutive hours of rest, including an opportunity for 8 uninterrupted hours of sleep. That establishes a minimum. It does not command your body to sleep after a late arrival, a hotel alarm, or a crossing into another time zone. At 25, you pass another first-class medical examination. Your vision meets the standard with correction. Your hearing, color perception, and health remain acceptable for the privileges you exercise. The certificate feels like a routine document until you understand what it represents. Your career is not owned only by your skill. Your body must keep qualifying too. You carry 2 calendars, one for trips, another for birthdays and promises. You believe discipline will make them agree. Then your daughter is born during a month when you are still junior enough to take whatever schedule survives the bid. In the hospital room, you fold a paper airplane from the corner of an old weather printout. You write her name beneath one wing. Your partner smiles and says, "Teach her where home is. You promise you will." At 28, you have become composed enough that new first officers ask you questions before remembering you are still one of them. You know the airplane. You know which airports demand more preparation, which weather reports deserve a second look, and how quickly confidence can become momentum. What you do not know is when the first real test will arrive. It arrives on an ordinary evening. You and the captain are approaching a congested airport after a prolonged day of abbreviated flights. A line of thunderstorms has crossed the arrival corridor. The airplane has enough fuel for the plan and its required reserves, but delays are accumulating. Air traffic control reconfigures the itinerary. The cabin has already been told that landing is near. Your daughter is 3. Her preschool performance begins in less than an hour. Your partner has saved a seat. The first approach looks possible. The runway appears and disappears behind rain. The wind changes. The airplane is not settling into the picture you briefed. Every part of you wants the flight to be finished. The passengers want the flight to be finished. Your family wants you on the ground. The instruments do not care. You call that the approach is no longer stable. The captain does not argue. Power comes up. The nose rises. The runway drops away beneath you. For a few seconds, the cabin hears engines when it expected brakes. Some passengers will interpret that sound as failure. In the cockpit, it is the sound of refusing a bad bargain. You climb, coordinate, and prepare again. The storm closes the useful space faster than anticipated. You and the captain evaluate the fuel, weather, and alternatives. The safest answer is no longer another attempt. It is a diversion. The decision is operationally clear and personally expensive. You land at another airport. The passengers wait for a gate. The crew works through the next steps. Your phone fills with messages while you remain responsible for the airplane and the people around it. By the time you call home, the performance is over. Your partner holds the phone toward your daughter. She is still wearing cardboard wings from the play. "Did you fly over my school?" she asks. You tell her you were somewhere else because the weather made the original airport unsafe. She thinks about this and says, "So you landed in the wrong place?" You almost answer like a pilot. You almost explain alternates, fuel, and unstable approaches. Instead, you say, "I landed where the airplane could land safely." She nods, but she does not understand why that answer could be both correct and painful. Neither do you, not yet. Afterward, the captain debriefs the approach with you. He says your call was clear and timely. Then he tells you that command begins before anyone gives you the left seat. It begins the first time you say something that makes the flight less convenient and safer. You keep the lesson. You also keep the photograph your partner sends from the empty seat at the performance. For the first time, you see the shape of the career clearly. Every promotion will give you more power to protect strangers. None will give you the power to be in 2 places at once. At 34, your seniority number finally reaches an opening you have watched for years. You can remain a relatively comfortable first officer or bid to upgrade to captain. The left seat brings greater compensation and more authority. It also removes the person you once expected to make the conclusive decision. If the crew disagrees and time is running out, the decision becomes yours. You choose the upgrade. Training begins again. The simulator does not celebrate your experience. It takes familiar situations and adds responsibility. A system fails. Weather narrows the options. A crew member becomes unavailable. An airport that seemed easy becomes demanding. You must use the people around you without surrendering command to them. When you pass, the left seat becomes yours. Your daughter draws them on another paper airplane. She is 9 now. She has stopped asking whether you fly the airplane all by yourself. She understands there is always another pilot. What she notices is that everyone calls you before making a difficult choice. Your first months as captain feel heavier than the uniform. You conduct briefings differently because you remember what silence felt like from the right seat. You tell first officers that you want to hear an uncomfortable concern early. You do not confuse rank with being correct. Then, during a climb on a routine passenger flight, the cockpit receives an indication that requires attention. The airplane is flying. The crew is not in immediate chaos. But a safe continuation is no longer something you are willing to assume. You slow the situation down. The first officer handles the radios while you systematically execute the applicable procedure and compare what the systems are telling you. You speak with dispatch and the cabin crew. You consider weather, fuel, maintenance support, and the airports available. Nothing about the situation resembles an action film. That is why the decision matters. The temptation is to continue because continuing is easier to explain. You decide to return. The cabin crew prepares. Air traffic control makes room. The first officer verifies your plan and flies part of it while you monitor. You land without spectacle. Maintenance meets the airplane. Passengers leave carrying irritation, relief, or no understanding at all. Your company will investigate the occurrence. Your paperwork will preserve what memory might soften. The most important result is that an indication was interpreted as information, not as an insult to the schedule. That evening, your daughter asks whether you saved everyone. You tell her the truth. We made a careful decision before anyone needed saving. She looks disappointed. Heroism at 11 should be louder. At 37, you are no longer persuaded by theatricality. You have seen excellent crews make uneventful decisions that kept a day uneventful. You have also learned that the captain's authority is not freedom. It is the obligation to become the last barrier when convenience, pressure, fatigue, and hope all lean in the same direction. Your responsibility grows. So does the stack of days you cannot return. You miss a holiday dinner after a sequence changes. The career gives your family access to places they once only saw on maps. It also teaches them to begin important moments without waiting for you. When your daughter turns 12, she places the paper airplanes from your trips into a box. She used to hang them above her bed. You ask why she took them down. There were too many, she says. At 41, a larger airline offers the future you once described as the top. Larger aircraft, longer routes, more earning potential, a path toward the flights that made you stare through airport fences as a child. Accepting also places you near the bottom of a new company's seniority system. Your experience does not disappear, but your control over the schedule becomes junior again. You tell your family the difficult years will be temporary. Your partner does not argue. That is worse than an argument. The profession substantially expands your world. You cross oceans. You watch sunrise arrive twice in what your body still considers one day. You learn unfamiliar airports and collaborate with crews whose homes are scattered across time zones. The regulations still protect defined rest periods. The hotel room is still dark. Your nervous system does not always accept the local clock. An average month may contain substantially more responsibility than the hours recorded in flight. Your time divides into preparation, reporting times, deadhead travel, delays, hotel vans, and the mental preparation of becoming alert when the schedule demands it. At home, your daughter is 16. She no longer asks whether you can attend an event until the schedule is certain. She sends calendar invitations instead. The title is always simple: concert, meeting, dinner, graduation. You begin treating those invitations like destinations. You study the bid, you trade trips, you preserve days. Sometimes the plan works. Sometimes a storm hundreds of miles away redistributes aircraft and crews across the system until your promise becomes impossible. At 47, you return from a 4-day trip and discover that the refrigerator contains a small cake. Your daughter has graduated from college. The celebration happened the night before because everyone knew not to wait. She hugs you and says, "It is fine." The word follows you longer than anger would have. Your career continues to improve on paper. Seniority accumulates. Professional compensation rises. More desirable trips become available. You return to the captain's seat on a larger aircraft. Younger pilots look at your uniform and see a rival. You look at the same uniform and see exchange. For every improvement, something else has been spent. The years building hours were purchased with low control. The first upgrade was purchased with heavier responsibility. The move to a larger airline was purchased with another period of junior schedules. The international routes are purchased with nights when your body cannot decide what time it is. The benefits are real. So are the costs. The mistake would be pretending one cancels the other. At 52, Your daughter gives you the old box of paper airplanes. She is moving into her own home and does not want to throw them away. You open it in the garage. Each airplane carries a date, an airport code, or a message written during a layover. Together, they form a record of love expressed from somewhere else. At the bottom is the weather printout airplane from the hospital. Beneath her name, your younger handwriting says, "I will always come back." You realize the promise has survived only because it never included a time. At 58, you are one of the senior captains you once watched from the bottom of the list. Your schedule has become more predictable. You can choose trips that your younger self would have accepted without reading. You can also avoid some of them. This is the freedom seniority was supposed to bring. It arrives after the years when your family needed predictability most. You use the freedom differently now. You mentor new first officers. You explain that a checklist is not a substitute for thought, and that thought is not a substitute for a checklist. You tell them to speak before uncertainty becomes embarrassment. In the simulator, you watch younger pilots discover that command is not a performance of certainty, it is the disciplined management of doubt. Your first-class medical examinations feel different too. The standards were always real, but age has made them visible. You read the eye chart, you answer questions, you undergo the evaluations required for the privileges you want to exercise. You know that skill cannot negotiate with a body that no longer meets the standard. At 61, after a demanding overnight crossing, you wake in a hotel before the alarm and cannot remember which city is outside the curtains. The disorientation lasts only a moment. It is enough. You evaluate accumulated fatigue more honestly. The regulation may provide a rest opportunity. It cannot guarantee that you used it well or that your body adapted. A professional pilot is required to arrive fit for duty, not merely grateful for the assignment. You remove yourself from an assignment when you are not satisfied that you can operate responsibly. The younger version of you would have feared appearing weak. The senior captain understands that protecting a flight may mean refusing to begin it. Your daughter, now an adult, asks whether you are ready to retire. You say you are not retiring yet. Part 121 rules end that cockpit role before 65. Other kinds of flying may remain possible, but this particular ladder has a final rung. She asks what you will do after the last flight. You have responses prepared: instruct, consult, travel, rest. None feels comprehensive. For 4 decades, your calendar has told you where to be, your uniform has told strangers what to call you, and your seniority number has translated time into choices. Without the next trip, you will have to decide what your time is for. At 64, you are offered a sequence that would once have looked like a reward, a prestigious route, a familiar aircraft, and the kind of schedule junior pilots imagine proves a career was worth it. The final leg returns on the morning of your granddaughter's birthday. The scheduled connection remains comfortable. The operational plan is ordinary, but decades have taught you that ordinary plans can deteriorate. You relinquish the assignment and choose one that returns a day earlier. No regulation requires this. No instructor grades it, no passenger knows. It may be the first senior decision of your career made entirely for the people at home. At 64, you begin your final flight as a Part 121 airline pilot. The first officer beside you is younger than your daughter. Before departure, you review the aircraft, weather, fuel, route, and threats as you have thousands of times. You do not deliver a speech. The airplane does not know this landing will be your last. During the descent, clouds cover the airport. Air traffic control issues a modification. The first officer recalculates the plan. You brief what will make the approach acceptable and what will make you leave it. For one quiet moment, you are 28 again, descending toward a runway in rain, while a child waits in a school auditorium. This time, the approach remains stable. The runway appears where it should. The airplane crosses the threshold, settles, and touches down. Passengers continue looking at their phones. Bags shift in the overhead bins. Another aircraft waits behind you. The system has no pause built into it for the end of one person's life in the cockpit. At the gate, you complete the records. You place your hand on the left seat, then remove it. Responsibility transfers without ceremony. Your family is waiting beyond the secure door. Your daughter holds the old paper airplane from the hospital. Beside her, your granddaughter holds a new one. Did you land in the right place? Your daughter asks. She remembers. You look back toward the aircraft, then at the people who learned to celebrate without waiting for you. For almost 42 years, you believed a successful life meant earning the next seat, the next aircraft, the next itinerary, and the right to make the final decision. But the most important lesson arrived on the night of that first diversion. A responsible professional does not force a landing simply because everyone expected one. You reached the left seat. You protected strangers. You built a life above the clouds. The price was measured on the ground. Your final achievement is not that you kept flying until the rules stopped you. It is that, before time chose for you, you finally learned what every good approach had been teaching all along. Know where you intend to arrive. Notice when the plan has changed. And never confuse continuing with success. You take your granddaughter's paper airplane and point it toward home. Whose life should you live next?